So here's a question that's divided couples since the dawn of dating. Who should say I love you first?
You mean who's supposed to jump off the emotional cliff first? Because let's be honest, whoever says it first risks everything.
Exactly. You say it too early, you're too intense. Say it too late, and you're emotionally unavailable.
And the classic script says men should go first, right? The bold move, the romantic gesture, the take the lead moment.
But that's the old playbook. These days, it's not just about gender, it's about timing, readiness, and whether both people are actually on the same page.
The Love Divide today dives into that. Why these three-word sentence carries so much psychological, cultural, and even evolutionary weight. Welcome to the Love Divide. I'm Lelaina Pierce.
And I'm Troy Dyer. Turns out it's less about who says it and more about when, why, and what it really means for your relationship.
So buckle up, because in this divide, we're not just talking about love. We're dissecting the science, the gender norms, and the emotional risks behind who should say I love you first.
Let's start with why this question even matters in the first place, Lelaina.
Yeah, why those three words still feel like jumping without a parachute.
All right, why the question matters. I know what you're thinking. It's just three words. Why make a big deal out of who says it first?
Because those three words are a turning point. They can either define the start of something real or expose that two people are emotionally out of sync.
Right. Think about it. Saying I love you is like pressing the emotional accelerator. Once you say it, you can't really take it back.
Exactly. It's the moment you put your feelings out there, raw and unfiltered. You're basically saying, here's my heart, please don't drop it.
Yeah, and for a lot of people, that's terrifying because love declarations come with vulnerability, and vulnerability is risk.
But it's also the bridge. That first confession signals trust, commitment, and emotional alignment, or the lack of it.
And historically, society's given men the leader role in romance, the one who's supposed to initiate. Ask first, kiss first, confess first.
Which is wild because women are often the ones told to feel first, to be more emotional, more intuitive, but then we're told to wait for the man to say it.
That's the social contradiction right there. Men are told, be strong, but show love first. Women are told, be loving, but don't be the first to say it.
And the irony, both sides end up second-guessing. Men worry they'll scare her off. Women worry they'll seem desperate.
Which leads to this emotional stalemate. Everyone's waiting for the other person to blink first.
It's like emotional chicken.
Exactly. But that's why researchers say this question actually reveals deeper stuff about gender roles, emotional timing, and even how we define love itself.
The study points out that saying I love you isn't just a romantic gesture, it's a social signal. It tells your partner and yourself, I'm ready for something more serious.
And if that signal's mistimed, it can feel like a mismatch. Like one person's ready for the deep end and the other's still dipping their toes in the water.
Which explains why timing is everything. Say it too early, it can feel performative or impulsive. Say it too late, it can feel cold, like emotional hesitation.
And culturally, we still frame the timing and initiator around gender expectations. Men are supposed to man up and go first.
But that's changing. Gender roles are evolving, emotional literacy is improving, and people are starting to realize it's not about who says it first, but whether both people mean it.
Right. The data shows that the success of that moment, the I love you milestone, depends less on gender and more on emotional readiness.
And readiness isn't gendered. It's about trust, safety, and whether you've built enough connection to sustain vulnerability.
So maybe the real question isn't who should say it first, but when do both people feel safe enough to say it?
That's a powerful reframing. Because if both partners are emotionally aligned, it doesn't matter who says it first. The energy is mutual.
But if one person's still uncertain, that same phrase can hit like a pressure bomb. Suddenly what was meant as intimacy feels like obligation.
Which is why this question matters. It's not trivial or just about romance. It's about how we communicate vulnerability and how society still scripts that vulnerability differently for men and women.
And maybe that's what makes this such a charged question. It sits at the intersection of love, fear, and identity.
Love, fear, and identity. That's basically the entire human condition right there.
True. So yeah, maybe who should say it first isn't really about love at all. It's about who's ready to take the emotional leap, regardless of gender.
And that's where the next part of our research comes in. So, Troy, let's get into the science. The research doesn't just speculate about who says I love you first. It actually measures it.
Yeah, and here's the surprise. Statistically, men say I love you first more often than women.
Wait, hold up. The same men who supposedly struggle with emotional expression?
I know, right? It sounds backward. But a 2011 study by Harrison and Shortall, published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships, found that across heterosexual relationships, men are not only more likely to say it first, they say it sooner.
So men are the first to drop the L-bomb. What's driving that? Hormones? Hope? Hero complex?
It depends who you ask. Evolutionary psychologists argue it's biological, that men saying I love you first is a kind of mating strategy. It signals commitment early on to strengthen pair bonds and, evolutionarily speaking, increase reproductive success.
So basically, I love you translates to please choose me, I'm reliable genetic material.
Yeah, when you put it that way, romance sounds a lot less poetic.
But that's just one side. Social psychologists see it differently. They say it's learned behavior, that men are socially conditioned to take initiative in love the same way they're expected to lead in dating, proposals, or career moves.
Exactly. It's that same old cultural script. The man is the pursuer, the woman as the gatekeeper.
But what's even more interesting is how timing changes the emotional impact. The Ackerman et al. Study in 2011 found that men actually feel happier hearing I love you before sex, while women report greater happiness hearing it after sex.
Yeah, and that says a lot about emotional and physical readiness. For men, an early confession might be part of attraction or anticipation. For women, it's more about validation, hearing those words once intimacy already means something deeper.
So men often say it early as a form of commitment seeking, while women respond to it as a form of commitment confirmation.
That's a perfect way to put it. The research shows both genders value the words, just at different emotional checkpoints.
But then comes the curveball. Sprecher and Meets back in 1999 followed couples over time, and guess what they found? The most stable, happiest relationships weren't the ones where one person said it first.
They were the ones where both partners said it when they were emotionally aligned.
Exactly. When both people were ready, when the confession didn't feel rushed or delayed, that's what predicted long-term satisfaction.
So you can think of it like harmony in music. One person can start the note, but if the other joins in off key or too late, the whole song feels wrong.
I love that analogy, because love really is about timing, not just chemistry.
And here's the catch. Most people don't consciously think about timing. We think love declarations just happen. But these studies show that when and how they happen can predict the relationship's trajectory.
Yeah, and that adds nuance to the whole debate. Men may say it first statistically, but it's not because they're more romantic. It's because of social and biological cues pushing them toward initiative.
And women waiting doesn't mean they're less invested. It often means they're more cautious, evaluating whether that love is genuine or just impulsive.
Which honestly is pretty smart, because saying I love you isn't just expressing emotion, it's setting expectations.
And if those expectations are mismatched, someone's going to get hurt.
So what the data tells us is this. When both people are ready, emotionally, physically, and mentally, those three words don't just land better, they last longer.
Well said. And up next, we're going to look at why these gender differences exist in the first place.
Yeah, the part where psychology meets gender norms and evolution.
All right, so now that we know men statistically tend to say I love you first, let's dig into why. Is it nature, nurture, or just nerves?
Or maybe all three. Because according to evolutionary psychology, there's actually a biological logic behind it.
Yeah, the theory goes like this. Men saying it first isn't just romantic, it's strategic. It's part of an evolutionary mechanism to secure emotional investment from a partner.
Basically, early declarations are a way to signal I'm serious, I'm committed, and you can trust me. It's a mating strategy designed to strengthen pair bonds and, evolutionarily speaking, increase reproductive success.
So when a guy says, I love you, part of his brain might be thinking about love, and another part might be thinking about legacy.
Exactly. But modern gender studies call this out. They argue it's not just biology, it's also culture. That these patterns reflect learned scripts more than instinct.
Yeah, because if it were purely biological, those differences would show up equally across all cultures, but they don't.
Right. Sociology adds another layer. It says men have been raised to associate leadership, decisiveness, and action with masculinity. That means they're expected to initiate from the first move to the first I love you.
And women, on the flip side, are socialized to value safety and receptivity. They're told to wait, to let the man lead, to protect themselves emotionally.
It's like an emotional chess game. One side trained to advance, the other trained to defend.
But that script is changing fast. Modern relationships are way more egalitarian. We're seeing women initiate emotionally, financially, even romantically.
And when that happens, the pressure on men to perform emotionally starts to ease. Because vulnerability isn't supposed to be gendered, it's supposed to be human.
That's the heart of it. But there's another layer. Behavioral economics adds this idea of emotional cost.
Oh yeah, I love this part. The theory is that vulnerability has a price tag, and that price looks different for men and women depending on social context.
For men, saying I love you first can be risky, but it also earns social approval. Society rewards men for being confident and bold, even emotionally.
But for women, it's more complicated. Saying it first might risk being labeled too eager or too attached. That stigma still exists even in modern dating culture.
Which means the same act, the same 3 words, carries a different emotional price depending on who says it.
Exactly. That's what makes love confessions so psychologically loaded. It's not just what you feel, it's what the world expects you to feel and when.
And even when people think they're being spontaneous, those expectations still whisper in the background, shaping who takes the leap.
But you know what's encouraging? We're seeing a generational shift. Younger couples are less tied to those scripts. They value authenticity over tradition.
Yeah, vulnerability's starting to look like strength, not weakness, for everyone.
And that's the evolution we're living through right now, moving from gendered love to authentic love.
So maybe the next time someone asks who should say I love you first, the answer isn't about who wears which label, it's about who's ready to be honest.
And brave enough to say it without worrying about who's supposed to go first. So far, we've looked at gender and psychology, but love doesn't live in a vacuum. Culture shapes everything about how we say I love you.
Yeah, because depending on where you are in the world, those 3 words can either feel completely natural or completely unnecessary.
Exactly. In Western cultures, like the US or much of Europe, saying I love you early is normal. It's like part of the dating rhythm.
Right, you meet, you vibe, and by the 2nd or 3rd month, someone's bound to say it. In these cultures, love is something you declare. It's verbal, visible, and immediate.
That comes from the value of individualism. Expressing emotion openly is seen as honest and healthy. Love has to be said to be real.
But then you shift to more collectivist or high-context societies, like Japan, South Korea, China, or even here in the Philippines. It's a totally different story.
Oh, absolutely. In those cultures, restraint is a form of respect. Love is shown through consistency, loyalty, or care, not necessarily through grand declarations.
In Japan, for example, saying aishikaru is almost sacred. It's not tossed around lightly. It's reserved for deep, long-term commitment.
Yeah, in a lot of East Asian relationships, you'll rarely hear I love you, but you'll feel it in quiet gestures, shared meals, or the unspoken routines of care.
So that's such a big contrast from the Western say it early, say it often model. One's about demonstrating love, the other is about declaring it.
And both have their pros and cons. Western openness builds quick emotional clarity. You know where you stand. But it can also create pressure to label feelings too soon.
Meanwhile, Eastern restraint protects relationships from false starts. But sometimes that silence breeds insecurity, like, do they love me or not?
Exactly. What's fascinating is how gender expectations layer onto those cultural habits. In more patriarchal societies, men are still expected to take emotional initiative, to confess first.
Yeah, it's like a status move. The man is the decision maker, even in love. Saying I love you becomes a kind of emotional leadership.
But then you look at more egalitarian cultures, like the Scandinavian countries, and it flips. There, saying I love you is gender neutral. No power play, no script. Just honesty.
That's refreshing, actually, when I love you becomes a shared expression instead of a gendered duty.
Totally. It also shows how social progress reshapes emotional language. The more equal a society becomes, the less these gestures get divided along gender lines.
And it's not just words. Even timing shifts with culture. Studies show that in Western contexts, men confess love about 2 to 3 weeks earlier than women on average. But in East Asian cultures, both genders tend to wait longer until there's a solid emotional foundation.
Because in those settings, love isn't just about passion, it's about security. It's something that grows quietly, not something you shout from the rooftops.
So if you're dating cross-culturally, that's something to really pay attention to. The silence might not mean disinterest. It might mean depth.
That's such an important point. I love you might sound universal, but the meaning isn't. It's filtered through culture, upbringing, and emotional language.
Which means there's no one-size-fits-all rule for when or how to say it. The key is learning your partner's cultural love code.
Love code. I like that. Because in some places, I love you is words. In others, it's making sure you got home safe, cooking for you, or remembering how you take your coffee.
So true. In some cultures, love speaks through Wi-Fi passwords and breakfast eggs.
Totally. It's love, just in translation.
So to sum it up, in the West, I love you is said to affirm love. In the East, it's often reserved to confirm it.
And both are valid, just different emotional languages for the same feeling.
We'll look at what happens psychologically after someone says it first, how attachment styles and emotional timing can make or break that moment.
Yeah, because even the right words at the wrong time can still mess everything up. So we've talked about culture, gender, and timing. But let's bring it home. What actually happens psychologically after someone says, I love you?
Yeah, because those 3 words don't just float into the air, they land somewhere. And how they land depends on each person's emotional readiness.
Exactly. According to attachment theory, it all comes down to how securely attached you are. If you're securely attached, you're more comfortable expressing love. You say it, you mean it, and you're okay if it's not immediately reciprocated.
But if you're anxiously attached, you might say it too soon. Not because you're ready, but because you're hoping to hear it back. It becomes reassurance rather than revelation.
And if you're avoidantly attached, you might actually pull away when you hear it. Not because you don't care, but because it feels like pressure or loss of control.
That's wild. The same sentence can feel comforting to one person and threatening to another.
Exactly. Timing isn't just chronological, it's emotional. You can say, I love you after a month or after a year, and it'll land differently depending on where both people are psychologically.
Which is why the research says emotional alignment is everything. When both partners feel ready, when the timing matches their emotional maturity, that's when I love you actually strengthens the bond.
But when it's misaligned, that's where things get messy. If one person feels it's too soon, it can trigger doubt or skepticism. If it comes too late, it can create distance or insecurity.
Yeah, it's that emotional pacing thing. like walking side by side. If one person starts running, the other feels left behind.
Exactly. And psychologists say the healthiest relationships aren't necessarily the ones that move fast, but the ones that move together.
There's also this piece about emotional intelligence, EQ, and how it plays into all this.
Yes, high EQ partners are better at reading when their partner is emotionally ready. They don't just say, "I love you," because they feel it. They say it when it feels safe for both.
And that safety is huge, because feeling emotionally safe doesn't just make love declarations easier, it makes them real.
Yeah. Think of it like emotional fluency. You're not just saying the words, you're speaking your partner's language. For some, love is words. For others, it's actions, consistency, or time.
That reminds me of how the study framed it. When partners express love in a way that aligns with each other's communication style, their relationship stability skyrockets.
Exactly, because love isn't just about the expression, it's about the translation.
You know, it's funny, saying I love you is one of the most universal things we do, but it's also one of the most misunderstood.
Totally. And the irony is people chase the perfect moment to say it, but the research says it's not the moment that matters. It's the mutual readiness.
Yeah, the emotional maturity behind it. You can fake timing, but you can't fake sincerity.
That's a good line. So, if we're being real, the best I love you is one that's said when you no longer need to hear it back.
Because then it's pure. No agenda, no fear, just truth.
And that kind of love, the honest, emotionally ready kind, that's what builds trust and long-term stability.
So maybe I love you isn't the start of something. Maybe it's the confirmation that something real already exists.
Well said.
Coming up next, we're diving into what the experts say, practical advice on when to say it and how to make sure it's real.
All right, we've gone through the data, the psychology, the cultural stuff, but let's get practical. When is the right time to say I love you?
Yeah, because knowing why people say it is one thing. Knowing when to say it, that's the hard part.
According to Dr. Lisa Diamond, a social psychologist who studies intimacy and emotion, the key is emotional clarity. You should say it when it's genuine, not when it's convenient, expected, or strategic.
Nudging. She calls it emotional authenticity, making sure the feeling comes from affection, not anxiety. Like, do you love this person or do you just need to feel loved by them?
That's such a powerful distinction, because a lot of premature I love yous aren't really about love, they're about fear. Fear of losing someone, fear of not being enough, fear of being forgotten.
Exactly. So, experts recommend 3 guiding principles before you say it. 1, self-awareness. Ask yourself, are these feelings steady or are they just a spark?
2, context sensitivity. Think about your partner's communication style and background. For some, words matter most. For others, actions speak louder.
And 3, courage with care. Vulnerability takes guts, but it also takes respect. Don't drop I love you like a mic drop. Make it an invitation, not an ultimatum.
That's good, because too often people say, I love you, expecting a response instead of offering connection.
Right. The healthiest love confessions come from presence, not performance. You're saying it because you feel full, not because you want to fill a silence.
And I love how the experts put it, timing matters less than readiness. You don't need to overthink who says it first if you're both emotionally aligned.
In fact, Dr. Diamond points out that the best love declarations arise naturally, in a moment of peace, not pressure. Like when you realize you love who they are, not just how they make you feel.
That's the sign you're emotionally ready, when love stops being a question and becomes an understanding.
That's deep, Troy. You've been reading your psychology notes.
You know it. But seriously, the takeaway here is this. Don't wait for the perfect time. Wait for the honest one.
Because love isn't supposed to be a performance. It's supposed to be a reflection of who you are, where you are, and how safely you can show up for someone.
And when that moment comes, gender doesn't matter. What matters is sincerity, that blend of vulnerability and respect.
That's how trust is built. You're not just saying, I love you. You're saying, you can trust me with your heart.
And that's the kind of love that actually lasts.
Okay, so we've talked about authenticity in timing, but what really determines whether I love you strengthens a relationship or shakes it is the emotional climate between two people.
Yeah, the research says it's not just about who says it or when, it's about what kind of space that love lands in.
Right. If you've built a relationship where communication is open, safe, and mutual, saying I love you feels like a natural extension of that safety.
But in relationships where there's fear, distance, or poor communication, those same words can trigger panic instead of peace.
That's where attachment style really kicks in. Secure partners hear I love you and think I'm seen, I'm valued. While anxious partners think, finally, I'm safe, but then start fearing they'll lose it.
And avoidant partners, they might freeze. I love you can feel like pressure, like emotional territory they're not ready to enter.
Which means the phrase itself isn't the problem. It's the emotional history behind it.
Exactly. You can't pour intimacy into a cup full of fear.
That's why therapists talk about developing emotional pacing. It's about matching the depth of your communication to the depth of your connection.
So you're not sprinting emotionally while your partner's still tying their shoes?
I love that metaphor. Because if one person's racing ahead emotionally, it doesn't mean they love more, it just means they're moving at a different speed.
And what couples counseling teaches is that those speeds can be adjusted, but only if you communicate.
Right. You've got to build what psychologists call a secure communication climate, one where honesty doesn't threaten the relationship.
It's like emotional calibration. The more aligned your communication, the less risk there is when one person decides to open up.
Which totally explains why some people can say I love you early and it feels magical, while others can wait months and still feel unsure.
Because the difference isn't time, it's trust.
Exactly. And trust grows through transparency. Saying how you feel before those three words even come into play. Things like, I care about you, I feel close to you, or you're important to me.
Those smaller signals build the emotional foundation, so when I love you finally arrives, it's landing on solid ground.
I like that, emotional groundwork, because even the best timing means nothing if there's no safety to receive it.
And that's the trap a lot of people fall into. They think love declarations fix relationships, but in reality, they just expose whatever's already there.
Yeah, if your bond is healthy, I love you strengthens it. If your bond's weak, it magnifies the cracks.
So maybe the question isn't who should say it first, it's have we built the kind of relationship where either of us can say it safely?
Well said.
So here we are, the end of the divide. Who should say I love you first?
And after all the research, psychology, and cultural breakdowns, the answer is beautifully simple. It's not about who says it first. It's about when it's real.
Yeah, the data shows that while men often say it first, thanks to old cultural scripts and maybe a few evolutionary impulses, that doesn't mean they should or shouldn't. It just means those scripts still echo through us.
But the healthiest relationships, they're not following a script at all. They're built on emotional alignment. Two people who are ready at the same time, not racing each other to the finish line.
I love that. Because love, at its core, isn't a performance. It's a reflection of where you both are emotionally.
And that's what this question really reveals. It's not just about romance, it's about how we handle vulnerability. Who feels safe to go first? Who's still protecting themselves?
Yeah, I love you isn't just a milestone. It's a mirror. It shows us our fears, our readiness, and our trust.
And that's the beauty of it. Those three words can expose imbalance, or they can seal connection. It depends on what they're built on: authenticity, timing, and mutual emotional safety.
You know, I think we romanticize the first I love you, but maybe what really matters is the last. The one that still stands after the arguments, the distance, the changes.
That's the real test of love. Not who said it first, but who keeps proving it.
And as gender roles evolve, we're finally moving away from the idea that one person has to lead emotionally. Love's not a competition, it's a collaboration.
Amen to that. Love should be reclaimed as a shared human act, not a gendered performance.
So if you're listening and wondering whether you should say it first, maybe ask yourself, am I saying this because I'm ready or because I'm afraid of silence?
Or even better, am I saying it because I want to connect or because I want control?
And if the answer is connection, then say it. Because love only grows when someone's brave enough to plant the first word.
Just make sure it's coming from the right place. Not pressure, not tradition, not fear. Just truth.
So who should say, I love you first?
The one who means it, and means it enough to let the other person take their time.
That's it. That's the whole answer.
And maybe that's the most romantic thing of all, letting love unfold without rules.
No rules, just readiness.
Exactly.
This has been Troy Dyer.
And Lelaina Pierce.
And this was The Love Divide, where men and women meet in the middle.
Thanks for listening. And remember, love's not about who says it first, it's about who keeps saying it, through actions, through words, and through time.